Okay, thanks everybody for participating in this call. It's great to see such an eminent array of people on my PC screen. We're here today to talk about the Water Dragons event, which will be conducted during the WWEM 2021, which will be a virtual event. Could we start off with you, Paul? Perhaps you could briefly describe the involvement of Future Water Association and why Water Dragons was created, and what the benefits of participation are.
Yeah, thanks very much, Graham. Well, in a nutshell, Future Water is all about shaping the future of the sector through collaboration, innovation, education. Those are our focal areas. We bring a lot of companies together from right across the sector, some water utilities and contractors, all the way through to the, innovators who are coming forward with great new ideas, different ways of doing things, as well as tech. And we're getting a lot more companies involved whose background is data, as well as research. And by pulling all that together, we then use the members to engage with the water companies, the regulators, wider industry, in order to set the view of the supply chain. So our ultimate aim is to unleash that potential across the supply chain, because there's some great ideas out there that we need to bring forward into the sector. We need more creative thinking, and creative thinking, not just in terms of innovation, but in terms of a diversity of thinking that needs to be brought into the sector. And that's where I think we've been, dare I say, ahead of the game with Water Dragons, and the whole history of Water Dragons and what we've been trying to do with it. And I'll ask Alistair at this point actually to say a few words about the history of the competition and some of the entries that have happened over the years.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Water Dragons was actually born out of one of our members who actually took part in the BBC Dragons, and John Batty, and he didn't actually win anything, but he got a great experience from it, and he got actually a lot of exposure, which I think it helped him. And he had this idea that we could do it for the water sector. So this was about 10 years ago, and we initially had a competition that ran just once a year. It was behind closed doors. We always used to get about 10, 15 people applying at that time, and then we'd hone them down to about 6 or 7, and then we'd parade them in front of a team of senior directors from the water industry, and that was very successful. And in the early days, they did actually sit there with little piles of cash on their seats, just to inspire the competitors to raise their game. But the purpose was to get exposure, and very successful in the early days. Many of them were actually then taken in by the teams in the water companies, and some of their products were trialled, which was fantastic. In more recent years, we realised that it'd be far better to make this more of a public exhibition. And what we've done now is we've regionalised it. So we have 4 or 5 heats every year. They're always done in front of an audience, which in the last 18 months has always been virtually like this, but very, very successful. It's worked really well for us, this virtual platform. And we assemble a panel of really good people, including Nikki, who's going to speak in a few minutes for us, who's been one of our judges. And they give a pretty serious, hard time to our competitors, ask some tough questions. We're looking at the innovation, how novel is it, how it can be applied, what's its scalability potential, and what's the business case. We've put a real effort into the business case, actually. There was far too much great ideas coming forward in years gone by that they were fine, but they actually had no impact. So we're looking for impact, looking for something that's scalable, that can actually be taken up by the whole of the industry. And that's how we judge it. And I think it's been very successful. We've probably had over 250 competitors, I think, Paul, haven't we, in the last 10 years? Really exciting, and a huge variety. I mean, the focus for this particular Dragon session, as you'll see, is mainly around data and analytics. But in the past, we've had flood risk. We've had some really innovative things around finding leakage in flats and buildings. So that's been really exciting. We've had personal hygiene innovations. Fab Little Bag that won a few years ago, absolutely wonderful, all green and disposable, and really helping sort of take away the stigma from from ladies' hygiene in particular, really, really very, very good. We've had innovations in water networks, new valves, 3D printing of valves. It's been really great, and that's where we want to go forward. One of the great benefits is, of course, it's free to enter. There's no barriers there. The only barrier is making sure that the innovation is there and worth hearing. So perhaps Nikki, you could tell us from the judges' perspective what you think the challenges are that the competitors are having to face, and the tough questions that you're pitching at them.
Thank you, Alistair. Yes, I mean, in my experience, the panel of judges is deliberately diverse and tends to bring knowledge and expertise gained across industry, government, and academia. So the panel discussion, let's call it a discussion rather than a challenge, can help assess not only the technical efficacy of an innovation, whether or not it will do what it's supposed to do, but also how easy it is to adopt, roll out, and scale up, whether it will help to achieve operational efficiencies, whether it will deliver increased regulatory compliance, for example, all of those factors. And I would hope that the discussion is less of a critique and more of an opportunity to help evolve the idea so that what comes out really is innovative and delivers against multiple objectives. And that will surely improve the chance that those innovations can successfully be brought to market. It's particularly timely now as well, I think, because the sector is looking for new ideas to tackle the sorts of issues we've already touched on, like leakage and pollution incidents. And we're seeing more and more innovations related to things like data and artificial intelligence, incentives for behavioural change. It's a real move away from a traditional engineering approach. So it's really exciting time to be involved as well.
And does it matter what stage of development the innovation is at?
For me personally, I think the idea is the most important thing. In some ways, it may help if it's not a fully formed idea, because the inventor, if you like, can then take on the views of others, particularly around things that they might not previously have considered. But that said, I think the main thing is to have a great idea and be able to present it confidently, and see the challenge session as a chance to evolve the idea.
Okay. And,
I
there's
would
no
just...
money for the winner, there's just the glory and kudos of winning. Is that right?
Yeah, but they could take their what it does do though, in the discussion is it helps the entrants and the winner move the idea forward, and that can save them a lot of time and effort and ultimately money. And one of the things, back to your previous question, Graham, that you've probably seen across London and the marathon now, all of those water in a seaweed capsule. As Alistair will recall, the initial thinking behind that came to one of our Water Dragon sessions probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was at the very early stage then, so we sort of pushed them back and said, well, how does this work? How easy is it to hold, dissolve? Can you make it look slightly different? And they've gone away and came back. And when I saw it all over the marathon, I was like, wow, that's fantastic. So impressed with them.
I've just written an article on PFAS chemicals. And of course, one of the problems with PFAS, apart from Teflon and waterproof clothing and firefighting chemicals, is that they also use it in waterproof food packaging. So I interviewed Nopla, the people who supply the things you saw at the marathon. They're also supplying fast food containers now and replacing the previous stuff that was full of PFAS chemicals, the subject of the film Dark Waters.
Oh yeah,
you may have seen.
Something I wanted to mention, and I should have done, is the fact that we're virtual. We're also international, and one of our last finals we had one team out in America and one out in Australia. So we're embracing the whole of the world now. And we've recently run a session purely for the Canadian High Commission in Ontario. And that was really exciting. And we had, I think it was 6 or 7, was it, Paul, innovations from across the pond. It was great to see. They have the same challenges that we do, but obviously with a slightly different dimension of big temperature swings and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it brought in a diverse audience as well, with a mixture of people. So I knew somebody two people, one dialing in from Ghana, one dialing in from South Africa. So again, it just brings that it allows us in the virtual environment to sort of bring everyone
Yeah.
together across the world.
Well, and that's one of the big objectives for the organisers of WWEM as well, because in the past, anybody that wants to come physically has obviously got to get on a plane, but now they'll be able to drop in and out of the sessions that catch their interest. But that in itself means that all of us have got to be rigorous with our timings, because if somebody wants to drop in on a session on testing PFAS, they don't want to accidentally fall in on a session that's talking about COVID in wastewater or something like that. So there'll be a greater element of rigor in time management, shall we say. So could one of you give us a very brief summary of the participants that will be at this year's event?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Graham. I just want to say one thing first. It sounds like a politician's answer, doesn't it? It's not meant to. That if I look at recent Water Dragons, then one of our winners of our final, Vapor, who originated in Australia and now working with United Utilities and its AI system in the sewer network. And recently another entrant, Headlight AI, who are working with Wessex Water. They've also had that project taken forward. So it's a great way to hone your idea and develop the business case further, so it meets the needs of the audience that you're talking to or pitching at. Yeah, next month's looking great. We've got entrants that are talking about smart asset management performance and how they're using data to create a consistency in that approach. We've got people looking at real-time quality monitoring across a range of parameters. I think there's a company who's looking at Aquabot, which I think is a system that can move around different environments like reservoirs and rivers and things. I can't say too much about it because you can start playing around. It's almost a bit remote control, so I get a little bit too excited.
And you'll steal their thunder.
Well, I don't want to steal their thunder. Yeah, and you've got systems that are looking at how you optimize wastewater treatment and how you can take forward the whole microbial cell dimension as well. You know, we've talked a lot about how you can develop energy from microbial cells, but as probably Nikki knows, this has been a discussion for 8, 9 or 10 years, and it looks as though someone's managed to pull something together that starts to say this is the reality of it, and if that is the case, I'm really excited to listen to what they're saying. So that's just a flavour. It's all looking really good, actually. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds fascinating. Well, that sounds great. That's exactly what we were looking for. Thank you all so much for your time, and look forward to seeing the event next month.
It's going to be good to be part of it again.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Brilliant.
Cheers. Bye.
Okay, cheers everyone.
Cheers, Graham.